Hello, friends. I know you're friends because I know why you're here, and I heard you say the Pledge of Allegiance. I loved it. It made me happy. I pledge my allegiance too. I can't say how proud I am to be standing in front of the National Rifle Association. This is amazing. You are the people in this country who recognize the most important things to keep intact. That's my personal belief. And I won't get into anything political today. I just don't feel political about things. I think that you get the right answer when you read parts of the Constitution. I love the Constitution, and this event is significant historically back to the beginning of our country, and it's more significant today than it may have been in a long time. But for me, if you understand how to read the English language and you look at the Constitution, then we don't have a whole lot to debate about. We don't. This country was formed by strong things. And we have those things present today. And I want to tell you some of my perspective about that. My name is Greg Stube. I get introduced sometimes as a Green Beret. And I want to make a correction. I'm not a Green Beret. A Green Beret is a hat. Earning the Green Beret is difficult. It's true. But wearing it and living up to the responsibilities that come with it are the hard parts. And I'm so proud that I could be a part of what I've said before, the greatest military on earth, of the greatest country on earth. With an opportunity to speak to you today, I think it's important to state clearly who I want to represent and what I think I should talk about today. Number one is service. And service in our country has so many facets to it. I've also said before that I don't care if you're flipping burgers at McDonald's. You're serving this country. You are a productive member of our society, and you build the fabric. Americans win because we try to be the best at everything we do, everything we touch. We want to be the best. I tried to be the best, and I think I went a little farther than I thought I ever could, and I guess everyone has an opportunity to slip through the cracks, and certainly I did. I made it into the Special Forces, where I started seeing things in the world. I started seeing things about our nation's defense and the security of freedom and democracy around the world. I don't have a single regret. And I'm going to talk to you some more because there are some things in my life that I could regret if I didn't love my country as much as I do. I was deployed I've been in the Special Forces, affiliated with the Special Forces since 1992. I joined the Army and the Infantry in 1988. Since I've been in the Special Forces, I've gotten to see a lot of great things, meet a lot of great people, and solve a lot of problems that were difficult for people that don't have it as well as we do in the United States of America. I'm very proud to have been involved with some of the very first elections in lesser developed countries. I got to see the looks on people's faces when they stood for 10 hours and longer in line, just waiting to cast their vote, something they had never done before. We have that power. We are empowered as citizens here, and it's such a beautiful thing, and I hope no one takes it for granted. So what I want to represent today, and who I want to represent today, are those who serve our nation in any capacity. First, I'll mention those in uniform. And a uniform can be a security guard outside one of our corporations or factories. A uniform can be the postmaster. A uniform can be law enforcement. It can be any service member under the Department of Defense or transportation. But anyone who chooses to wear a uniform and to serve in that professional capacity is willing to accept the fact that things may go wrong. Things may become challenging. They may get out of control. And you may be called on to sacrifice. I suggest to you that when an American puts on a uniform, they are prepared for that sacrifice. And that's why I take issue with people calling me a hero. I love you. I love you for loving your country and for being a patriot enough to value what I might have done. But let me be clear. You are the ones that create the America that is worth serving. It is worth fighting for. It is worth dying for. I always wanted to be strong enough to be able to look beyond myself and beyond my own safety in order to accomplish a greater good. And that's not always easy. I've been faced with combat operations as so many thousands of people in this country have now. Thousands and thousands upon thousands more of our young people in this country are signing up and raising their right hand to serve at a time when they know the odds are high that they may be wounded or even killed. Re-enlistment rates are higher than they have ever been. Now, how could that be in a time of war? And make no mistake, we are a nation at war. The success of our war fighting can be determined here in America. I'm proud to say that on my way to this event, I was not in fear of a roadside bomb. I was not in fear of an ambush on my way here. I think there's a certain amount of success in that, knowing that we are the primary target of terrorists around the world. I'd like to challenge everyone to be as strong as you can in this country about volunteering. In this country, if we're not a part of the main effort, we get behind the main effort and we support it and we do whatever we can to help. And that means do anything you can. And I'm asking all of you to join me. My time in the military will end. I'm sad about that. I love wearing this uniform. I love wearing the American flag. And I love fighting for you. But I will leave the service. I will leave military service, but I will never stop serving. I will never stop fighting if necessary. And I know you'll join me. I know you will. I want to ask that you step up to the plate and volunteer as much as is practical in your life. And I'd ask that everyone here step up to civic duties. Step in. And if you get called to jury duty, I witnessed a murder trial this week in Covington, Tennessee, where a Tennessee highway patrolman was murdered on one of our highways. That was the first murder trial I had sat through, and I realized what an honor it is to serve in something as small as jury duty. We have people in this country that would avoid jury duty. There are people that don't think they should have to do it because they have a demanding job. Their boss might not like it if they had that time away from work. Maybe they have a pregnant wife at home. And I do understand that life has its issues. but not compared to the issues that get thrown at you when you don't preserve and maintain this beautiful, free society we have. So I ask you to step up to the plate and accept whatever challenges are in front of you, to volunteer and perform whatever civic duty you can. I want you to be there with me, and I want you to make sure that I do what I'm supposed to, because I'm not finished. If you know anything about my story, as a soldier, as a husband, as a father, as a wounded veteran, then you'll have some idea of how I came to appreciate this country and how we live as much as I do. I was wounded in Afghanistan. It was one of the largest battles against the Taliban in the history of our conflict over there. There were 3 Special Forces teams going in, and we wound up engaging thousands of Taliban in southwest Afghanistan. It was obviously bad odds. Obviously, the cards were stacked against us. We fought hard night and day, ran out of ammunition a few times. It got very serious. I want to tell you about the courage of our young men and women out there that fought beside me. Some of them had been my students in the Special Forces training program. And of course, I went into combat thinking that I would be their daddy on the battlefield. I was wrong. Some of our young people, some of your sons and daughters, are champions in this fight against terrorism. And I saw it. Years ago, I thought that it would be the peak of my career and my life when younger soldiers could learn something from me. Now I know better. The honor is when you learn something from your soldiers. And these young people are teaching me things I never would have understood had I not witnessed it in battle. It didn't matter if you were having a bad day over there. It didn't matter if you just got a letter that your girlfriend broke up with you. It didn't matter if you woke up with diarrhea. You still fought. You put everything you had into it, and you did not want your brother or your sister to get wounded or killed. So you did everything you could. And we do. We do, and I want you to know that. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. Several days into this fight, I had avoided a lot of gunshots, a lot of RPGs. It was very extreme. I don't know how to describe it, but I learned that shots fired in anger are something entirely different, because mine were fired in fear. And that's the truth. That's the truth. Our people are willing to face their fears in order to win. And it's scary. It was for me. Days into this battle, my vehicle was blown up by an IED, an improvised explosive device, as we were climbing the hill of our final objective that protected high-value targets for the Taliban. We were there. We'd arrived. We could see the end of this battle. When the IED struck, I didn't see or hear anything. I only felt intense heat. And when the vehicle came to rest, the first thing I knew was that I needed to get away from the fire. There was intense fire. Ammunition, ordnance, fuel was all burning now. And we were being shot at with automatic weapons fire. As I climbed out, struggled to get out of that vehicle, the bones below my right knee cut through my uniform and stuck into the sand in front of me. And I fell on my face, no longer able to support my weight. As I lay there, specks of sand were hitting my face, and I thought it was flies biting me, but it wasn't. And if you've heard this story before, I'm sorry, but I want to get this out. And again, it's not about me. It's about thousands of our friends loved ones and neighbors who are fighting this war right now. When I realized it was gunfire, I knew I had to move, and I had become complacent in a few seconds of time there, I know, and that's the enemy. And I don't like to admit having been weak, but it was an extreme situation. I began crawling, climbing, trying to make some distance between me and the gunfire, or toward any kind of cover or concealment. The vehicle at that time was the only thing I could get to, and I was burning. I was on fire. The fuel and other flammable items from the blast had saturated my uniform and skin, and I was burning full thickness on the backs of my legs, my rear, and my lower back. As I climbed around the vehicle and was getting help from very brave friends of mine, I was grunting for air. I couldn't breathe very well. I wasn't sure what was going on, if it was the end. But then I felt a pop as I was straining, and that pop resulted in the release of intestines through a hole in my hip that had been blown by a 1-pound piece of shrapnel that had entered my thigh and hip and gone all the way through my abdomen. Graphic stuff, difficult to think about, difficult to consider wounds like that. And as a medical sergeant, I wasn't sure I would survive. As a matter of fact, that there were times I thought I would die. But I had people with me that were disregarding the danger to them. They were putting the fire out that was on my body. They were braving the hail of gunfire that was coming in at us, the RPGs that were being fired at us. Not just RPGs that blow up when they hit the target. We have RPGs being fired at us now that are fired by proximity. They can just see how far away you are, set a time fuse, and it'll blow up when it gets that far from them. So it doesn't have to hit you to get you. Guess I'm trying to build the atmosphere. You had to be there, I guess. This was difficult stuff, but I am so adamant about getting the word out of how brave those soldiers were that were helping me and refused to take cover because I might die if they did. And they got me to safety. And then they thrust themselves right back into the danger to win. And they did. They won. And that's what we do as Americans. We win. My journey back to the States was an eventful one. There were a lot of medical problems, obviously. Blood transfusions for days, waning in and out of consciousness, hours and hours, building to days and days of surgeries. Remember, I said I don't regret a thing, because I don't, and I won't. I'll continue to fight. And if the ultimate sacrifice comes for me, you tell everyone you know that I meant it. And that I know that my contribution, however hard I could fight, whatever security I could achieve for our country, was worth it, because I want my kids to be safe. I want them to live in free democracy. I want them to be as free and happy as I got to be growing up. And if I can be anything close to what a child wants to grow up like, I've sure got to try. I don't want my son to have to choke back thoughts about me, little dirty secrets he knows about me, in order to say that I was a good man. And so I'm honor bound. A lot of this for me is new. I haven't felt this way all my life. But I sure learned a lot when I came home to this country. And I was in a hospital bed for months, and in a wheelchair for months, after I'd been one of the most capable people I knew, and I was so proud of that. I had a chip on my shoulder because I was more capable than most people. But in an instant, I lost those capabilities, and I learned that, man, we are all the same. We all have such commonality. And the things that are important are not physical. They're not. It's about honor. It's about integrity. And it's about having the courage to stand up and be right. Say the right thing. I acknowledge that it was the hand of God that allowed my survival, and God should be first. He is to me. And we will be a nation under God as long as I'm able to fight. There are a lot of places to go that were built on a different foundation, a different structure, a different constitution, if you will. Those are places that you can live if you don't agree with this one. So I ask that everyone be on board. Everyone feel the kind of pride that I feel. The kind of pride I felt when I came home to a young, beautiful wife, and she didn't see the same husband she knew. I had been a Special Forces sergeant, a trainer, an instructor. I had done all these things, showing other people how to do this job right, jumping out of airplanes every week. And now I couldn't do anything for myself. Nothing. I had to be fed when I was allowed to eat. I couldn't go to the bathroom on my own. I couldn't change my wound dressings. My right leg was in traction. I had bags and lines and all kinds of stuff going on for a long time. And as a medic, I learned a lot. But what I take away from that is the fact that my wife and so many spouses of people who are defending our nation are standing by their loved ones while they go through the worst of times. If you want to talk about service, let's talk about the kind of service where you don't get any credit for anything you do. You're not the one that makes the decision to raise your right hand. You're not the one that swears in and gets the sense of adventure to go out there and tackle the world's problems and get called a hero. If you want to talk about service, let's talk about the ones raising our children and creating a better tomorrow. That's what we need to address. The reason we're willing to re-enlist and continue this fight is not only because it's a great nation. Yes, this is true. And yes, I am a patriot. And yes, I want to be a good citizen. But we can't forget about our families and our personal lives. That's what really makes us tick. It's what we identify with on the smallest level. We re-enlist and we go back time and time again because we know our family supports us. That's where the service is going on. Because without that structure, we have no culture anymore. This is a celebration of American values. And I want to tell you to shift your focus a little bit. Let's look at what's going on at home. Let's look at what it takes to drive these soldiers and sailors and Marines and airmen. What does it take to drive them to keep going back and feel like it's going to be okay? Not only okay, it's going to be better when they get home as a result of what they're doing. If that's not something to be proud of and recognize, I don't know what is. My wife lived out of a suitcase for months and months while she was raising our infant son and changing my wound dressings and putting up with my crap. I was in pain. I was uncomfortable. I didn't treat my wife with the respect that she deserved at times because I was uncomfortable. I was frustrated. My life had changed in ways that I never anticipated, I could never prepare for. And my reaction to her was a bad one most times. But she saw through that. She stayed with me. She took care of me. She raised our child and created changes in him that I thought only I could make. It's wrong. The soldier is only half the story, if half. Because it's easy to fight for what you believe. It is. It's not easy to have to sit at home and wait for a phone call and not know what that phone call might be. And then to say, honey, I love you. You go ahead and re-enlist. I want you to be proud. I want you to be happy with what you're doing. No matter what it costs me, no matter how much time in my life I have to spend alone, I know that it's for a good cause, and I know that you believe in it. So let's do it. Isn't that big? That's huge to me. Finally, we talk a lot about fighting, and I've been told by instructors of mine throughout my Special Forces training, peace is not our profession. Well, true and false. We want peace through superior firepower, superior morality, ethics. We want the right fight. We don't just fight. We want to fight for the right things, and we want to win if it's worth fighting for. The NRA teaches us not to point at anything we don't intend to kill. I'll just make a side note. My dad wouldn't even let me have a real gun until I was 18 years old, and there was a reason for it. There was a reason. And I salute you, Dad. My dad's name is Rick Stube, and he's a retired Navy chief. God bless you, Dad. He's a good guy. All my friends had shotguns when they were young, and they had rifles. And you know, my dad was in the Navy, and he was gone a lot of the time. And while he couldn't be there with me to shoot as often as he would have liked to, he knew that something needed to be done to rear me properly and to give me opportunities like shooting presents. And so he gave me an air rifle. And he didn't even let me shoot it until I could memorize and recite the 10 Commandments of firearms safety. What? Just let me shoot. But I mean to tell you that today I'm approaching 20 years in pretty serious business with the military. And I've been on the receiving end of gunfire, and I've placed some effective gunfire. But I still think about those 10 Commandments of firearms safety that my dad made me learn and verified that I could recite before I even touched an air rifle. I think that's a good message. I think it's a great way to start, and I think we can really take charge of our children's life and their development if we put safety first to allow them the opportunity with firearms that they deserve. Our right to bear arms is one of the big reasons I joined the military. I really wanted to preserve the rights and freedoms we have as Americans. And to see you here today, and hold on, let me reference. This is 137 years this has been going on? Wow. it is great to know that there is still that silent majority of hardworking Americans who are raising their children. They're working that 40-hour week, and guess what? Because there's a nice new model truck coming out, they'll work a second job and even a third job, because in America you can achieve your dreams. You can have anything you want in this country, and the silent majority is out there earning it, developing it, growing this thing we call America, and it's you sitting here today who believe in our fundamental rights, and you're not looking for video cameras or microphones to speak into, to push your purpose. You're just living the American dream, and God bless you. God bless the real America that believes in our rights and freedoms and is working to preserve them. I want to mention about our military that it's not all about fighting. And I know I referenced that a moment ago, but what's very true about it, and I was talking to my brigade commander, a colonel that I hold in very, very high regard in my life and in my career. He's the commander of the Civil Affairs Brigade in the active duty Army, part of the Special Operations Command. Now, what you may not know is that we're not only fighting in these places, we're establishing culturally relevant solutions. We are helping people achieve victory for themselves. We take their culture into consideration. We talk about how they see victory. What do they see as success? And we don't come in with preconceived notions about how they should be. There is an entire fleet of champions, your sons and daughters, that are winning this war on terror, not through fighting, not through shooting, but through winning hearts and minds and showing people what it's like to be free of oppression. And that is a beautiful thing that will sustain us into the future. Fighting is never as important as winning, especially when winning is for a just cause. I'll end on one thing. I'm very proud to say that we're not just fighting our way to victory over there, but that we're willing to. But I want to say that we represent a country that doesn't indoctrinate its troops. We don't convince our military members that the Constitution is the right thing. How much time in my 20 years do you think I've spent with the military teaching me about the Constitution of the United States? How much time do you think the government has spent teaching me about why our side is the right side? That never happens in the United States military. And I never even considered this until my colonel, my commander, my boss's 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 boss told me just the other day. He said, our people believe that what we're doing is right. We don't have to brainwash people. And all of our adversaries that I can recall had indoctrination programs for their own military, convincing them that what they're doing was right. Can you recall a time that we deployed soldiers to a foreign country and had to provide extra security because one of our people might defect? I want to come home. That tells me that we are fighting the right fight with the right people, and we are achieving the right objectives. I ask you to stand with me, stay the course, continue the fight, and I ask you also to listen to these people who are signing up again and again to go overseas and miss their loved ones, to risk it all, to go through hospital treatment for months and years at a time, and then choose to stay in and go back again. I want you to listen to them. I don't want you to listen to people who are making their determinations from an office. Please listen to the Americans that are willing to fight. to preserve what we have. God bless America. Thank you.